Good evening and welcome to the Paranormal Lens with myself, Chad Thomas, and Jamie Widener. We're part of Jott-Nyx Paranormal, and every Tuesday night we are live here with you. Um, and here we are. So, Jamie, what's going on?
How do you know if you're live? Interesting, huh?
True, yeah,
Yeah. Well, we are. So there. Ha!
we are
Proved it.
live. Yeah.
Dude, I am great. It has been a fantastic week, a wonderful weekend, a lot of cool things going on. And we're back. Here we go.
Hmm.
So I want to tell you this. Um, I had the chance on Saturday evening, and I alluded to this last week at the end of our episode, I think, that to go out to the Ritz Theater Company in Haddon Township, New Jersey, for their headliner series featuring Ron Yacovetti and Lourdes Gonzalez with the Digital Seance Experience. It's a ticketed event, so it's open to the public, kind of like what we do with our events at Booby's Brewery. And I got myself a ticket. I rolled in. The weather be damned Saturday as it was.
Uh-huh.
I knew I was going to get there. I wasn't sure I was going to get home. Um, and Well, I did, obviously.
Yep, you're
But
here.
with that, I was pleasantly surprised to run into Todd and Carmelo. Carmelo. Jeez, it's a new version of that.
Uh-huh.
Um, and Frankie Deo runs the program there, so we know Frankie well.
Hmm.
Of course, Ron and Lourdes and a few others that I got to know. And I got to tell you, the theater is fantastic. It was in between shows. It's a working theater, so they were tearing out for the old show and then setting up for Kinky Boots, which
Uh-huh.
opens Friday night. And yeah, Chameleon, thank you, thanks, Todd. Uh, oh goodness, I learned some things about people I didn't know.
Okay.
One of them is that Carmela actually has a fantastic Han Solo is alive theory that you're going to
Okay.
have a conversation with her about sometime. And Todd and I debunked some orb stuff, so
Okay.
we'll
Yeah.
share that perhaps another time. I didn't get a chance to get it in a place where we could see it tonight, so but more on that. There's some actual good audio evidence there.
Mhm.
Uh,
And yeah, Todd, I can't wait to get there one of these days.
yep.
It's in my.
I'm serious, dude. We got to go.
Mhm.
The team, everybody, anybody, however we do it, we got to get there.
Mhm.
Had a fantastic experience, and it doesn't hurt to have the digital seance experience. It is. I don't think I won't be harmed to say this, but it is what was once upon a time Staticom as we
Mhm.
know it. A rift, a split between the factions there. The West Coasters. It's like a rap war here, East Coast, West Coast. Um, the process though is still very much the same. Technology and software used to capture digital voice phenomenon. It is point on. Ron tweaked it as we went. We got to toward the end of the evening, and I've never heard it be so clear and
Great.
obvious audio
Mhm.
coming through. So outstanding. We and we did have we investigated the theater. Of course, there's a space in the basement that we were at. We were actually told to be quiet down there in the old orchestra pit. So help
Mhm.
it's a typical theater person, right?
Yep,
Um,
exactly.
and then some upstairs spaces backstage. Just a really really cool place. So
So,
um,
I did notice that the Ritz is doing a Valentine's investigation.
yes, yes they are.
If you want to go see the show and do an investigation, I think it was $40 per ticket.
It is a ridiculously low price of $40 to see Kinky Boots as a show, and then
Uh-huh.
hang out for a little after with the cast as they roll out, and then stay to investigate until the wee hours of the morning.
Yeah,
Um,
seems like a
that'll
great
the
price.
ticket to see the show alone is ridiculously inexpensive for the quality of production they have there. That's just amazing, and it's 15 minutes outside of Philadelphia.
Mhm.
So anybody in the metro area, anybody in the tri-state area,
Mhm.
easy to get to. And I'm going to keep plugging it until I'm blue in the face. It's a really cool place.
Okay.
Um, the other side of that though, and it being a good weekend in general, I rolled home at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning or so coming through Philly, and I could not help but notice that the entire city was lit up in green, and it
Why
was
would
just
that
really
be,
cool.
Jamie? Why was
Well, there was this thing called the Super Bowl, and I'm not sure if you're aware of what that is,
Oh,
but
yeah, yeah, that's
the NFL championship game
mhm,
happened Sunday evening, and hell yeah, Philly, Philly,
mhm.
Philly. The Eagles won a big one in a blowout fashion, so it was a great, great, great weekend.
Right.
And of course, I paid for it Monday morning, but oh well,
Right.
I wasn't the only one.
Right.
So, but that's a lot about me and what I did. So, what about
Right.
you? What's
Well,
going on?
speaking of sports, though, Jamie, do you know what happened today?
Ooh, today? No, I didn't.
Pitchers and
I had.
catchers reported.
Oh yes, it's that time.
It's
Make it
spring training.
happen. So cool. You know,
So.
I always lament that there was the week in between the champion, the NFC and AFC championship games and the Super Bowl. That extra week, that's just like the lull.
Hmm.
But it does extend the season just enough so there's not a big gap for baseball to start.
Right.
And
Right.
I know football and hockey, or I'm sorry, no, football, basketball and hockey are going on, and all that
Hmm.
stuff. But and I like all sports, so I'll watch anything when it's on. But baseball, getting baseball started is such a positive sign for spring to be on the horizon.
Hmm.
You know,
You're right.
we are now a week away from Groundhog Days, so now we've got 5 weeks to go.
Right.
And baseball gets started, and then that gets us
Right.
that extra nudge toward
Yep.
it. Um,
The
and it's
grapefruit
such
league will be here anytime. We got that
exactly
going.
it's. And I used to live in the West Coast, so the Cactus League is a thing too.
Uh-huh.
With all the West Coast the mid country teams go head down to Arizona, and it's so much fun there too.
Hmm.
It's not Florida because there's not the beach and the water and all that stuff as you get on both sides of the coast there, but it is still pretty cool to have baseball happening.
Right.
In
Right.
the middle of February.
So.
Yeah, let's make it happen.
Mm,
Go Phils.
yeah. Can't wait. So. Well, it
How
sounds
was
like
your
you
weekend? Anything going on
had.
this week?
No, unfortunately, I was not traveling because we were going to do an investigation this weekend, and I was not traveling out of the area. And we decided not to go out because one of the investigators pulled out of his driveway, got to his intersection, spun out, said, "I'm going home." Almost was hit, and I was like, "Nope, not
Yep.
going to do it." So we're going to have to put that investigation off. But maybe you can join us now, Jamie.
Yeah, that means I get to do it. So it
So.
was a tough choice. An unexplored place in our regional area here in South Central PA. Once, but now currently a vacant private residence.
Hmm.
So it's only a matter of time until someone comes in, I guess.
Yep.
So timing might be of the essence, but um, that's really cool when you get to be the first one in a place. We've done a few this way. Obviously, we've done private
Right.
investigations for people, but we've also done some public buildings and public spaces that are the first time.
Hmm.
And you just never know what you're going to get. So
Right.
it's the
Now,
excitement of it.
apparently the residents had been getting plenty while they were there, so
Okay, oh,
so we'll
cool.
see.
All right.
Um, but anyway, you were talking about promoting the theater until you were blue in the face, right? I picked up on that.
Yeah.
But we're not going to talk about being blue in the face. We're going to be talking about people being green tonight.
I thought you might be taking the city was lit up in green and going with that instead. So
No, no, that would have worked too, but
okay.
not going there.
All
But
right.
good call. So tonight we're going to dig into a medieval tale called "The Green Children of Woolpit." Um, we're going to talk about where it likely originated, some of the different interpretations, and possibly the significance of the legend. And of course, we'll get to discuss whether or not it's paranormal or not.
All right.
So, um, when I was looking for information around for the background of the story, I came across the Historic UK website. I would definitely check it out. There's some really cool stuff there. I know Bert and Heather like to, go over to that part of the world and stay. They have castles you can stay in. There's all sorts of stuff like that. But they also have some of the historic tales of things. Um, they had an article about the Green Children of Woolpit, and I liked it. But they also had a video that I enjoyed. Um, they didn't have video cameras back when the story took place, Jamie, so it's not real footage. I'm just going to put that up front. But it does give good background information. So I reached out to them about using the video. And a couple of days later, they reached back out and said they had checked out some of our episodes,
Oh,
that they were going to be following us now because what we were doing was right up their alley. And
hopefully it's a dark and spooky alley.
this is true. But we were welcome to use the video as long as we gave them credit. So we're going to do that.
Cool.
I'm going to go ahead and roll the video. It's about 2 minutes. So we'll see what it is.
Ever heard of the Green Children of Woolpit? Young siblings with green skin, speaking an unknown language and claiming to be from an underground world. The tale originates from the village of Woolpit in Suffolk, England, during the 12th century. According to historical accounts, the villagers stumbled upon a brother and sister who emerged from seemingly nowhere, wandering near the outskirts of the village. The two children, a boy and a girl, bore a peculiar feature that gave rise to their curious moniker. Their skin was tinged with a shade of green. The children's strange appearance was not their only remarkable characteristic. They spoke a language that no one in Woolpit could understand, and their clothing was fashioned from unfamiliar materials. The youngsters appeared disorientated and frightened, and when offered food, they refused everything except for green beans. They maintained their green hue, which only further heightened the mystique surrounding them. Intrigued, the villagers took the children in, and over time they began to adapt to their new surroundings. As they learned English and integrated into the community, they revealed that they hailed from a subterranean world, where everything was bathed in perpetual twilight. They described a place called St. Martin's Land, where the sun never shone, and the people had green skin like them. They explained that they had become lost when they followed a herd of livestock into a cave. After wandering through a tunnel, they emerged into the unfamiliar daylight of Woolpit. The boy eventually succumbed to illness and passed away, leaving the girl as the sole survivor of this strange journey from another realm. As she grew older, her skin lost its green hue, and Agnes, as she'd become known, married the Archdeacon of Ely, Richard Barr. According to one report, the pair had at least one child. Ever heard of the Green?
So it's kind of interesting to start out with, isn't it?
Yeah. Wow.
So
What's the timeline of this in history?
okay, we're talking about 1150. So
Okay.
I'll cover that here. So we're gonna recap the video, maybe
Yep.
dive a little deeper into it. So we're talking about a village located near Suffolk, England, which is, I believe, Eastern England, called Woolpit. The name probably came from an interpretation of the Old English word for wolf pits that were located at the edge of the village. So they had these pits to catch wild animals to keep them from wandering into the village, apparently.
Okay.
The date is somewhere around 1150, which is during the rule of King Stephen. Uh, this time in English history was very rocky, and also known as the Anarchy. Now, according to the text, and my Latin's not that good, but I'm going to try here. So, according to the text in Historia Rerum Anglicarum, during the harvest, while the reapers were employed in gathering in the produce of the fields, two children, a boy and a girl, completely green in their persons and clad in garments of a strange color and unknown material, emerged from these wolf pits. So, as you can imagine, with a story this old, there are several variations, but there seems to be some common themes. Some of the information is believed to have been documented by Ralph of Coggeshall, an English chronicler who was a monk and went on to be an abbot. The children were taken to a home of a knight called Sir Richard de Calne, and he took charge of their care. He tried to offer them food, but they refused everything that he had prepared. After several days, the children discovered either broad beans or green beans growing in the garden. Upon finding the raw beans, the children immediately devoured them. And as time went on, the children slowly adapted to eating other things. As they ate a wider variety of foods, the green color slowly left their skin. Over time, the children were able to learn English, and when they were able to speak fluently, they were asked about where they came from. It is believed that what they had to say was documented as follows: "We are inhabitants of the land of St. Martin, who is regarded with peculiar veneration in the country which gave us birth. We are ignorant of how we arrived. We only remember this, that on a certain day, when we were feeding our father's flocks in the field, we heard a great sound, such as we are now accustomed to hear at St. Edmund's, when the bells are chiming. And whilst listening to the sound in admiration, we became on a sudden, as it were, entranced, and found ourselves among you in the fields where you were reaping. The sun does not shine upon our countrymen. Our land is little cheered by its beams. We are contented with the twilight which among you precedes the sunrise or follows the sunset. Moreover, a certain luminous country is seen not far distant from ours, and divided from it by a very considerable river. So after this revelation, Sir Richard decided it was time to have the children baptized in the local church. It is believed shortly after the baptism, the boy fell ill and passed away. We do not know what the illness was. The little girl, known as Agnes, stayed in Sir Richard de Conde's household and worked for him. Here is one place where some of the stories start to seem like they differ. Some say that the boy died before he told of their homeland, and only Agnes was baptized, and that's when she was named. It is rumored that Agnes was loose and wanton, but she eventually married the Archdeacon of Ely, Richard Barr, and it is believed that they had at least one child together. Agnes reportedly went on to live a fairly normal life. Now, this is all the history we have on the children. There is, people have done genealogical research and found that Richard Barr was married to an Agnes, and so there is some things backing up this timeline a little bit. So the question is, what, if any, of this story is true? Earlier, I mentioned the story was documented by Ralph of Coggeshall. But the first account I quoted was written by William of Newburgh. He was an Augustine canon, or a priest who lived among the people. William recorded the story in his Historiam Rerum Anglicarum, or the History of English Affairs, circa 1189. In this, he cites reports from a number of trustworthy sources as the sources for his information. Ralph chronicled his story in Chronicum Anglicanum, and his information is accredited to Sir Richard de Conde of Wykes, which the children actually lived with. Now, chroniclers during the medieval period were known for sharing information, and we can find verbatim accounts of things in different people's works. But in this case, the stories are close, but not exactly the same. The two men lived about 25 miles apart, so they were not likely to be sharing work with each other. Some believe that this gives support to the story being true. So if these children were real and they were discovered climbing out or near the wolf pits, where did they come from? This is where there is no agreement, and no real answers have been discovered in the 875 years. Well, there have been several theories that have been floated. One popular theory is they were children of Flemish immigrants. The Flemish settled in eastern England during the first part of the 12th century, but they were persecuted when Henry II started to rule England, which was right after King Stephen. So it is possible that the children were tending their family's livestock when they wandered off. If they were lost and didn't know how to get home, they may have kept traveling until they found a village. Only speaking their native language, communications with the locals would have been near impossible. As for the green skin, there's a condition called hypochromatic anemia, also known as chlorosis or green sickness, that is attributed to dietary deficiencies. If the Flemish didn't have enough to eat or were eating the wrong things, it is entirely possible that this could have been the case. Another point that ties into this theory is that some of the Flemish settled in an area near Fornham St. Martin, just north of Bury St. Edmunds. So this could have been the reason the children referred to St. Martin's Land as their home. Another theory along these lines is that the children may have been poisoned with arsenic and left to die, which would also account for the green tone to their skin. So that's one theory. Another theory is based on the fact that several stories of the era have similar themes. Gerald of Wales tells a similar story about a boy who encountered two pygmies who led him through an underground passage into a beautiful land with fields and rivers, but not lit by the full light of the sun. This one leans more towards the paranormal and ties into the folklore of England and Wales and talks about passing through a cave into another world. There are also tales of in English folklore of inhabitants of lower worlds visiting mortals and continuing to live with them. This can be found in E.W. Bachman's book, Type and Motive Index of the Folklore of England and North America. Now, it's an inversion of common fairy tale motive of mortals traveling to fairyland and living there for various periods of time, either willingly or not. But the fact that the children came from underground is important, as the fairies are commonly thought to reside under the earth, usually beneath hollow hills, burial mounds, and also in caves. The strange description of the world always in twilight also fits with many folkloric descriptions of an underground fairyland. Now, with this in mind, the story may be a jumbled attempt to overlay fairy tale motifs with a historical incident, as it does seem like like I said, both of the chroniclers went that route. Um, but the children do not seem to have any powers like most fairies or folklore, um, entities would. So they really seem more like lost human children than fairies. But there's always that possibility. Speaking of possibilities, we always have the option that it could have been extraterrestrial beings.
Yes.
So, the Ancient Origins website has an article on the children and talks of this theory. In his 2012 book, Children of the Sky, Duncan Lunan presents an unorthodox theory of alien intervention in the 12th century England. Lunan goes into considerably more historical detail than any other writer on the subject, and his close reading of the historical sources teases out the context of the story and characters involved. Of particular importance is his interpretation of the original texts, pointing out the usages of language by the two medieval chroniclers and how the original Latin may have been skewed by later translators and story summaries. But the historical detective work soon gives way to a speculative interpretation that ties into the Templar Knights. It is helpful to realize that Lunan identified Sir Richard de Calne as a Templar Knight. He believes that the Templars were in contact with alien civilizations who were abducting humans to populate a colony world, a world where it was always twilight due to a synchronous orbit, and where genetically modified algae turned the inhabitants green. The Green Children were part of a colony and were accidentally transported to Earth due to a matter transmitter malfunction. Yes, Jamie, I said a matter transmitter malfunction.
It happens. It can happen, right?
Now, yeah, it sounds crazy, but the sci-fi angle taken by Lunan is a lot of fun and allows some free-thinking speculation on the oddities of the story. Okay?
Sure.
So there's that option. Now, in other episodes, we've talked about how sometimes folklore is used to teach lessons, right?
Right. Yep.
So is that a possibility with this story? Further into an article on ancient origins, they dive into this thought, and I'm going to read directly from their website. And it starts here. However, as usual with folk tales, deeper meaning can be read into the story by asking what it is telling us about the human condition. A follower of the Carl Jung school of psychoanalysis would immediately spot the archetypes of the outsiders. The children were green, came from an unknown and strange land, and spoke no known language. They represented an otherworldly intrusion into the regular, consensus reality of the 12th century villagers. They may have been treated as a threat. In a time of Christian fundamentalism, their fate may have been seen as a demonic being in need of persecution. Things could have ended badly for them, but they were also vulnerable and frightened, and the story is never about the threat of outsiders, but rather of the tolerance and the kindness to them. As has already been discussed, there have been large-scale immigrations into eastern England through the 12th century, and communities that have been forced to come to terms with foreign ideas and behaviors within the space of 2 or 3 generations. In the case of the Green Children, they were accepted, protected, and then integrated into the dominant society. We can see the story as a folkloric method of teaching tolerance to of outsiders by using an archetypical concept. So I'll let you think about that for a minute. So, while you think about that, Jamie, I'm going to cite some sources. First of all, again, I want to thank the team at Historic UK website for allowing me to use their video. You can check them out at historicuk.com, and I'll put a link to them in the comments after the show. I also used allthat'sinteresting.com, explorersweb.com, and ancientorigins.net. So we have several theories to dig into. We get to question whether or not they existed, if it is just folklore, if there's anything paranormal or not. But what I think is really interesting is we have two separate accounts from two people whose job it was to document events.
Yeah, to do
I,
just that, right?
yeah, I really want to believe that it happened and that they lived in a subterranean world and something led them to the surface. But the skeptic in me says no. But to William of Newburgh, it doesn't matter what we think. In part of his chronicles about the children, he wrote, "Let everyone say as he pleases, and reason on such matters according to his abilities. I feel no regret at having recorded an event so prodigious and miraculous." So, was there a clue there in what he said to wrap it up? I don't know, Jamie. What do you think?
Maybe, right? But that's like anything. We can, as time moves forward, we can always go back to things and second guess it, third guess it.
Hmm.
The source isn't available to clear it up. Wow, there's so much to unpack here.
Uh-huh.
Um, what keeps coming to my mind is, and I'm going to go back to my youth and yours as well. We're in the era of this,
Hmm.
but somewhere in the late '70s, I think it was the show Land of the Lost.
Okay.
Yeah. Sid Croft production. Uh, people get somehow go. It's like Journey to the Center of the Earth, kind of.
Right.
They get pulled into this other realm underground somewhere. There's green slee stacks, if I remember them correctly, like reptilian humanoids that were green. There's dinosaurs, but there is this whole other world that's in our world. You know,
Right.
and then they have to find their way back. Journey to the Center of Earth. There's another tale of it. The concept that we go somewhere subterranean, we find this whole other place we didn't know existed. I mean, you can go forward even into the Matrix movie. So it's presented
Hmm.
there, that there is this whole other place. Um,
Right. It's
you
a
know,
recurring theme in so much of
yeah. So
our
but that means it comes from somewhere, right? I mean,
right.
sort of anyway.
Right. Hmm.
It's at least enough of a theory that it has legs to carry itself forward, and we keep rebooting it to something else.
Uh-huh.
So maybe, right? What I didn't hear, and I understand what the wolf pits were. That was a natural defense around a lot of villages, especially in the rural areas where there was just a lot of wildlife,
Hmm.
a lot of predator wildlife. People wanted to keep their sheep and their livestock safe, all that stuff.
Right.
So they would bring them into the village, at night. The pits were meant to, and the gate was there as well. They probably had some kind of wall. Not unusual for the era, medieval times.
Hmm.
But the idea that the kids came out of one of them means that there had to be a cave of some kind or some
Right.
entry point, exit point in this case, which means there would be an entry point. What I
Right.
didn't hear in any of the stories is anybody finding that place where they came from.
Right.
Truly, anyway.
Right.
Because I mean, I'm not going too far out on a limb to say this, but if I found, if I had contact with these kids and they told me they came from a place, I would go look for the place, right?
We know David would.
Well, hell yeah, right. I would too. I'd be right
Me
next to
too.
him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I push
Exactly.
him. I push him in first, though. But
Right.
it's one of those things. It's one of those things where, every time there's a cave or a nook or a cranny or something,
Hmm.
I'm poking my head in it. At this point, because these kids had to have come from somewhere.
Right.
So
And one
if
person
that's
brought
the
up they
theory,
couldn't have
right?
come from the wolf pits because a wolf pit would have been 2 or 3 meters deep.
Right.
A child,
It's
there's no
just
way
deep
they.
enough that something can't climb out.
Right.
It's not a cavern or anything.
Right.
So I appreciate the theory of it, and I guess there have to, we have to explain things,
Hmm.
right? And we've talked about this so many times with folklore, how the story changes over and over, because the teller is the hero of the next version of it, so
Right.
they tell it their way to make it, make them be the hero of it.
Right.
So, it's whispered down the lane, but in, hundreds of years
Mhm.
worth of it. So, and there is no, you said it really well early on. There's no pictures of them. There's no, video of them.
Right.
The things that we would currently use as concrete evidence. Well, at least we would start there. We try
Right.
to everybody tries to debunk everything, but there's nothing to go against other than this being an oral story. A
Mhm.
traditional tale that's been passed down. I love this overall. I
Okay.
really think it's a cool thing. I mean, yes, people can. I guess I was told when I was a kid that if I ate too many carrots, my skin would turn orange.
Right.
I love carrots, like I still do. Right? That might
Yeah.
explain somebody in our government these days, maybe, I don't know.
Uh,
A lot of carrots in his diet. Um, but with that, I guess I can understand that,
mhm.
having a tint or hue, perhaps. Maybe it's something to do with a lack of sunlight, if they really were for some place that is
Right.
subterranean
Or a combination of the lack
or
of
something,
nutrition
right.
and, I mean, the lack of vitamin D, which is, you get from the sun,
Yep,
you become lethargic, it's all those things, so, there's a
absolutely,
good
yeah.
possibility.
Well, this time of year, this is a huge part of it, and
Mhm.
seasonal affective disorder is a thing that's been well documented over the last 20 years.
Mhm.
This is the time of year where the sun's at its lowest points and we get less of it. Then we get less anyway because we all have, we have to go to work in places that
Right.
are indoors, and, we come out and it's dark, we go in, it's dark.
Yep.
So I certainly understand all of that. And the cool thing is these seem like they were normal kids, like normal
Mhm.
people anyway, you know.
Right.
Um, and the foreign language thing, I think the Flemish piece is a good example there. My
Mhm.
thought was, really wide river. I thought perhaps maybe they were from from Europe, mainland Europe, perhaps, and maybe the water level was lower and they could see. I don't know how wide the channel is, the English Channel. I'm assuming it's wider
Right.
than I think it is. Somehow they could see across it to know I think it's a river at least. But how would they cross it?
Right.
I'm just trying to figure out ways to make this make sense, and it really doesn't in a lot
Right.
of ways. You know, and maybe that's where the alien element comes in because that's the catch-all, right?
Mhm.
If we don't explain it, and it must be extraterrestrial because it certainly isn't terrestrial the way it's explained.
Well, there's that or a portal. I mean, there
Or
that's,
right,
because, they heard this strange noise to them, which sounded like the bells of a cathedral, but apparently they didn't have that wasn't part of their culture.
gotcha.
So
Yep,
so what was it? Yeah.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's a really cool story.
So I this is one I hadn't heard of before until I started digging into it. So I agree. I think it was pretty cool. So
Well, what about you guys out there? What do you think? It's a head scratcher for us, of course, but and I do want to go back to some comments here too. Bert and Heather were late because of LJ's birthday. So can we start the show over? No, sir. You snooze, you lose. Um, that's
but
no.
but we will be on Spotify and Apple
Spotify, Apple,
Podcasts.
Audible, all that cool stuff tomorrow. Um, you can still watch it on Facebook later. Once we're done, it'll pop up again or
Hmm.
YouTube. Um, but yeah, snooze, you lose.
Hmm.
And Bert mentioned here, you mentioned Templar connection in there, which I thought was an interesting piece as well.
Hmm.
With the Templars having their hands in so many things, it's not surprising that they come into this because I think at one point, they pretty much controlled most of Europe.
Right.
Um, and they would have at least been well aware with their network of stuff. So perhaps
Right.
there's something to it as well. But I agree, I'm Templar stuff. I'm like, ooh, what's going
Hmm.
on here? And so yeah.
So one thing that's interesting with this is it seems to be brought up cyclically. Like
Mm,
everything was recorded, but it wasn't until I forget what, maybe sometime in the 1600s, that when the chronicle, the one book by the guy from Newburgh was translated to English, did it start to come around again? And then it came around again in another couple hundred years, and another couple hundred years, it was brought up again. It was just like it seems to come up over and over and over. Like it's refreshed, I guess is a good way of putting it.
sure.
So I don't know. It just seems interesting to me. And when every time it's refreshed, people dig into it a little further. I mean, the one guy was 2012.
Right.
So
Recent in our sense.
yeah. Hmm.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, that's that. Here it is, right? We have so much information at our fingertips these days.
Right.
You know, but this stuff isn't that. This is in books. This is in libraries. This is somewhere on a shelf that's probably got a lot of dust on it because
Right.
of the age. And it shows that people are still going to these places and still digging through things. And I'm just going to say this to be Captain Obvious, but libraries are still our greatest resource for
Hmm.
information, regardless of what the internet provides, because you don't have to, and usually there's more than one source as much as the internet, but
Right.
go check out the library. You'll find everything you're looking for.
And
I
you,
love the internet. I use it a lot, but I
mhm.
still rely on books. I still trust a book. I still want to touch a book and read it, turn the pages. There's something in that learning experience that's exponentially different and from my opinion, better
Right.
than
When
scrolling.
and I feel if you're reading it from a book now, again, a book can be skewed,
I know.
but I
I
feel like
get it.
it's
I get what I
it's
just said, and I
more.
know the opposite of it, right?
I feel like it's more realistic and more firm. Like 7 different people could read an article and then put it on the internet and have their own skew on it.
Sure.
So I don't know. Like you said, I just feel like there's something about learning from a book, and I'm horrible at it because I used to love to read, and I've just gotten to the point where I have a hard time. Adult ADHD is definitely a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, fair.
So
And time, that's the other thing. It takes time. And we, audiobooks exist, right? So,
mhm.
having someone in our idle time of driving and in waiting and, places where you just can't pull it out, or if, and you have the ability where, to put on headphones where you are, for your employment, if you
Mhm.
have that, that's a nicety. And it counts as reading. We had
Right.
an argument discussion, it's a better word, about that the other day here. You know, as I mentioned, we're talking about Hans Holzer and reading on average 3.5 books a year.
Uh-huh.
Like reading 3.5 books a year is an achievement for many. You know,
Right.
and then the I think 5 books were read here already this year by someone else other than me. I think I've only read two so far, maybe three. But I
Mhm.
I read books because of this, like
Right.
research, materials and stuff. So, which I've said this so many times before. If we weren't doing this, I wouldn't have that exposure, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Um,
Here's a blast from the past, Jamie.
oh wow, yeah, we
Yeah.
all did, right?
Mhm.
And then did someone come to your house to sell it to you? Maybe.
Yep. I mean, we had it, and how many different versions of encyclopedias were in the library?
Oh my gosh, walls of them. And every year they, every year you had to get a new set because there's new information, right?
Right, right. Yep.
You couldn't be
Yeah.
behind the times.
Yeah. But now, you can go to the Encyclopedia Britannica website.
Yes,
So,
yes. Of
so
course.
yeah, for the people who are only listening to this, Bert said my generation grew up on the Encyclopedia Britannica. So,
Yes. And well, we're all there. Yeah.
yeah.
And he continues to say his mom had shelves of encyclopedias. That's a cool house to grow up in
Mhm.
right there.
Yep. The other one, Jamie, was National Geographic,
Yes.
the
Another big one.
magazine.
Yep.
Yeah, my dad had multiple shelves of National Geographic magazines. So,
Of course. Yeah. And well, and the worldly experiences you got from that, were so uniquely different than anything you'd see otherwise. Because
mhm,
there wasn't a history channel, right? There
right.
wasn't a nature channel or anything like that. You had three channels basically, and you were the remote control
Mhm.
when told to change it.
What was there was a nature show on Sunday nights.
Well, there's a few things, right? Like PBS eventually came up, and then you got
Right.
like Nova and things like that, and now In Search of,
Yeah.
um, some things that explored the world more. But
Me
there was a time when it was pretty bare, other than
Mhm,
what you would find at the
mhm.
library.
I remember Sunday nights before Walt Disney World show.
Yes,
Was it
wonderful World of Disney, right?
there? But the right before that was like a Mutual of Omaha something, or World of anyway, it was
Oh
a
yeah, it was Call of the Wild or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
anyway, I digress. There were no green children on that show.
No Green Children, right? So
So
didn't that was they weren't mainstream enough.
no, so it hadn't come around the cycle.
Yeah, it's true. We're off that one.
So,
What that mean? What you say? Yeah, no,
yep,
there it
there
is.
it is.
Yeah, Heather just brought in Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. Oh, sorry, we both clicked in.
Yeah,
So, yeah, that is exactly it.
yep. That was a great show.
It was. Oh my, what a wonderful time to be alive. Um, so I guess this is probably a part to ask, but where do you feel here? Is this a paranormal thing or what?
Again, I would love to believe that it was paranormal, like underworld, you know, living, underground world,
Yep.
some sort of portal brought them here. But again, the skeptic in me is just like, I don't think so. But I don't know because it's like I said, there were two stories by two people whose job it was to document things that were too close to be. It's just there's something here, but
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. So
I don't doubt that there were kids that were discovered that were tinted in some way.
right,
Just I
mhm,
mean, it's any person who it doesn't look like you exactly is considered unusual, right?
right,
Especially in this era of the world and this place of the world. There's a lot of white
right,
people, right? And pasty white ones at that because they're British. Um, so crooked teeth, all those bad stereotypes,
right,
and that is exactly a stereotype. Um, the story probably it isn't ending where it started, like going back to Whisper Down the Lane or Telephone
right,
Game or however you want to say it. And it probably evolved through the years to something where they didn't look normal like everyone else, and
right,
therefore it got fantastical. And they
right,
became another color, green. It could have been blue, could have been pink, could have been
right,
orange. Who knows? It happened to be green. So maybe that.
right,
And then having kids come in that spoke another language, would have been an occasion, right?
hmm,
That would have been noted. It would have been
right,
exceptional. So I don't disbelieve that it happened, and I want to believe that either they came from, like you said, some subterranean special place world, or they were extraterrestrials,
hmm,
that got lost along the way. Um, I can see it now out in the moors somewhere. Somebody they landed a ship, and the kids had to go to the bathroom, so they ran off to the tree line, and parents thought they were on the ship, and then they didn't check, and next thing you know they're gone, and the kids are like, "Hey,
right,
you know that sounds like a movie."
hmm, hmm,
That's the next Disney film right there.
hmm,
Um, but that kind of thing, I want to believe that too. Like that could happen. I mean, I hate to
right,
see that they would abandon, like these kids would get left behind, but
right,
the idea that I want to believe that too. But the reality, you know, the probability, maybe more than the reality, is that it's just a story that's been expanded so many
right,
times in the course of history that it is what it
right.
is. It's not necessarily what it was then.
Right. As outlandish as some of Lunan's ideas were with the extraterrestrial, he did have a good point that it was at some point it had to be translated from Latin to English.
Sure.
And, you know, every time you translate, it's just like the Bible. Every time the
Yeah.
Bible's translated, things change.
Sure.
They change to fit the time period that it's being translated in. They change to fit what the translator's interpretations of the words,
Mhm.
because we're dealing with a language that has evolved, and like I'm sure the words in Latin today are just like the words in English that they've like they're not the same. Like
There
the
are things that don't have words for that
right,
matter,
right,
so a substitute had to be provided or an alternate
hmm,
was created to fit
hmm,
something close. And that's where, that's the idea of lost in translation. Like
hmm,
it happens even in known languages today,
right,
with just moving some words just don't convey into
right.
the new language or vice versa.
I mean, loose and wanton could have meant a beautiful woman at that point,
Sure.
like
Yeah.
because that was one of the
It
things that
has
was
different connotation today, that's for sure, right?
exactly right. So anyway, so yeah, so you're thinking it's not really paranormal either, Jamie?
I wanna believe, and I will always say that I wanna believe because I
Hmm.
do, but I just don't think I can on this
Yeah,
one.
no,
Great story though, really cool,
yeah.
and, kudos to the team in Woolpit for, keeping the dream alive
Hmm.
that it could be, and who knows, there might be some document that pulls out of somebody's attic someday, from ages ago that then has more information, and man, stuff happens all the time,
Hmm.
or more information. That's how we figure things out. So
Or
hopefully
we
there's more stuff available someday that either supports or refutes it either way. But at this point, I'm squarely in the middle of a fence, leaning no,
yeah.
unfortunately.
I mean, Jamie, we could always take a time traveling road trip
It's true.
back
We could. I'm
and
surprised no one said road trip yet. I'm a little
yeah.
disappointed. Burt Lynch,
So
talking to you.
yeah, I mean, it again, we will never know. 875 years it hasn't been figured out.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be figured out.
And that's what makes it cool too. Like
Hmm.
it's still there's still a debate.
Hmm.
There's enough here to make it debatable.
Yeah.
So good choice of topics.
Thank you. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. So speaking of topics, should we look at topics coming up?
Before we go, Bert's defense here is he missed where the story started. So okay, that's
So
fine. We're in the UK, sir.
UK wolf pits outside of Suffolk, England, in about 1150.
Eight,
So
yeah, AD. So
80. So
turn on your time machine and then hop back over. And next time you're on the other side of the pond, you can give us a scouting report.
so oh, so they missed our call out to check out uh I'm drawing a blank on it now. That's horrible.
The Ritz Theater.
No,
Oh,
historicuk.com,
yeah,
because they have
sorry.
hotels that you can
That
stay
was
in.
my part of this
Yeah,
conversation. Sorry, I'm still
yeah,
excited about it. So
yeah. So
that's there
now
it
it's
is.
road trip. There we go. There we go.
All right, now Bert's called for road trips. All right,
So,
now the episode is complete.
so well, we could just challenge them that next time they're in Ireland to make a trip to Wolf Pit and do
Yes,
some
it's like a side
on-site
quest,
research. Yeah.
right? Yeah,
So so now are we ready to move on, Jamie?
let's do it.
All right.
All right, so we got some stuff coming up. So next week I'm going to tackle the fun, if I can call it that, of the true Grimm's fairy tales. Um, and then coming behind that, Chad's going on the 25th. We're going to do Rendlesham Forest Incident, which I know absolutely nothing about. So that's pretty cool.
Okay.
March 4th, which is Fat Tuesday, we're going to talk about New Orleans, which is America's most haunted city, perhaps anyway. And March 11th, as Chad said last week, he's going to jump into Leap Castle. That makes me laugh every time.
Hmm.
And then behind that, on the 18th of March, mid March, we're going to talk about Tommy Knockers. So,
Okay.
and move along. So we talked about our home base at Booby's Brewery in Mountjoy, PA, and for those interested in this, it's Bubes, not the other spelling, and certainly don't look that up at work with the other spelling because you might get HR calling you in the office. But Booby's Brewery is in Mountjoy, Pennsylvania, here in the U.S., and with it is a property on this National Historical Register that we get the privilege of investigating on a monthly basis with public events. However, if you're not a fan of doing public things and you have maybe your own team that you want to bring in and have the place to yourself, you can certainly schedule some private investigations as well, and we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, I was gonna say
But
that's coming up, but
yep, but our
um,
public stuff is coming up in 2 weeks on the 22nd of February, and again in March 22nd. It's always interesting to me how March dates equal out each month to
mhm,
over, can always tell. April 10th, we're going the road ourselves. We're heading out to West Virginia to the Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, or TALA, So we'll do an episode in advance to set up the history and things that we know, and then we'll do a post with the folks who go with us. Part of our team is going, and part of our New Jersey team is going, and some friends along the way as well.
Hmm.
And coming out of that, we have another public investigation on April 26th at the brewery.
Okay.
Tickets are available at boobiesbrewery.com/entertainment, and that will transition you over to what's called Saver Stub, which is a seller website that'll get you the
Right.
tickets that you need to get to our events.
Jamie, I don't know if you caught any of the social media posts that Melissa put out today, but we're adding a room to the investigations this year.
Ooh, I've been busy today, so I
I,
missed this. Do tell.
the post said, new for 2025, we are adding an additional room to investigate. One can't help to wonder what Aloise and Pauline talked about in the privacy of their own bedroom. The kids, the business, we're going to find out. So I'm not sure what that is, but we will
Yeah,
find out in a couple weeks.
we will have more information on that next time.
Hmm.
Okay, well, cool.
So
See? And Chad, you know as well as I do that Mountjoy is more fun when you stay over,
it is. Yep.
right? So accommodations are available on site in the brewery property in the Central Hotel, which is the part we get to investigate. There is a hotel level above, and then across the street there is a property called the Malt Baron Mansion, which is an Airbnb that has larger rooms, perhaps for your multiple guests, and kitchenettes and so forth. So you can stay right either on property or right across the street, walking distance either way, of course.
Mhm.
So pretty cool. And again, Mountjoy is more fun when you sleep over, right, Chad?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm
All
gonna
right.
make that a slide next time, Jamie.
It should be at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
All right. And again, public investigation options are available. We have some special stuff coming up, though. And you can tell I didn't look at these slides before we started talking about them because I'm used to a certain order that Chad has jumbled on me. So,
Sorry. Yeah.
all right. I'm flexible. I can work this. Uh, so we have a Para-Unity event coming up on May 17th. So we are going to partner with Stacy and Gary from Land and Legend Paranormal. So Stacy is a medium, and Gary's a pretty cool dude. So we are going to partner with them. They're going to investigate with us and bring a different level of expertise to the program for the night. Everybody's going to get a chance to work with them as well as with us as a team, and it should be pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to this date. It was moved from April 26th just for some scheduling conflicts. Unfortunately, it came up, but we're definite go on May 17th for this special event.
Yep.
Tickets are still available, so feel free to jump in to the boobiesbrewery.com/entertainment page, and then tickets all be listed there. All right. And then,
Now
as
is
I
your
kept
private.
saying 16 times already, you can do private investigations, at the brewery as well. So if you have your own team, you'd like to come in and have the place to yourself, we could certainly coordinate that. With that, we ask you to shoot an email to mkeller600, at gmail.com. That goes directly to Melissa Keller, who's our team founder. She coordinates those events and provides the dates and costs and all that good stuff. And again, she can share the idea of how to stay on property too. So it's pretty easy, pretty simple. And with that, you have the place to yourself. There's no other teams there. There's no other staff there. So it's pretty cool. We have had the privilege many times of actually investigating on our own at the brewery. So I can say it's a cool experience. Hey,
Hey,
there's John
John.
Kelly. Hey,
Yep.
John, good evening. Um, and then how to find us. You found us tonight either on our Facebook page or our YouTube channel, but also you can check us out on TikTok, Instagram, as well as shoot us an email if you're interested in giving us perhaps an episode topic or discuss anything. Paranormal Lens Podcast at gmail.com. Tomorrow we are going to have this episode up on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Audible. Maybe another one or two. Chad, I forget how many we have now, but there's a lot of them. Ways
Yep.
to find us, and all you have to do is search Paranormal Lens, and we'll pop up right away. And if you want to see all of that stuff at once, we have a Linktree page at just go to Linktree which is linktr.ee paranormal lens, and we'll be right there for you too. So you can see all of this good stuff all in one place.
Yep.
And this is episode 91. So if you're new to us, there's 90 backlogged episodes for you to catch up on. So we definitely have something for you to do this week.
Yep.
And next week probably too. Depends how much you want to binge. So, all right, sir, that is all we have.
Yeah.
So, any parting thoughts?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
All right. Well, I say this usually every episode, and again, we really appreciate everyone for coming along for the ride with these episodes. Whether you're here with us tonight or catching us on the streaming services later, if there's something you would like to see or hear us do, shoot us an email. Again, paranormal lens podcast at gmail.com gets to Chad and I. We are willing and able and certainly excited to do listener submission episodes. We've done quite a few. We'll do quite a few more. We'll do as many as it takes. We self-produce, so that schedule that we talked about a minute ago can be moved and flexed, and we can pull stuff up to the top. We just need a little time to do some homework on the topic. And who knows, you might come on with us if it's your story. So we're certainly very flexible. Anyone, while you're out there on the streaming services, feel free to give us some stars. We hope we've earned 5, but if not, whatever number you feel is good, we're happy with it. We're just happy that we have some interaction, and if there's a chance to leave a review or a comment, please do. We love the feedback. We really appreciate the experience of getting to touch base with people who are listening, and the interest that you have as well. It's an exciting thing, and it drives us forward. So
you said we're up to 21 countries on our streams, right, Jamie?
Oh my goodness. Wait, there's 21 countries in the world? What? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah, and thanks to everybody around the world, wherever you may be. We certainly appreciate each and every one of you. We can't do it without you. Thank you.
So, all right. Well, Jamie, it was fun doing this episode, but I'm looking forward to next week and what you've got. So, as always, it's great going back and forth because we're getting exposed to a lot of different things.
Yeah,
so, and there's definitely some really cool stuff coming up that we haven't even put up on the schedule yet. But yeah, I think we've said it before. This is a never-ending. This podcast could go on for years and years and years, and we wouldn't hit all the topics.
The boundless realm, the paranormal. So, we'll keep them coming.
So, but on that note, I think it's time to roll the end credits, and we'll be back here next week at 9:00 on Tuesday night, just like every week. So, thanks everybody, and we will look forward to seeing you next week.
See you then. Take care.